It's the night of St. Hallows Eve. Join us if you dare.
As some scares are on their way to the square.
So lock your doors and turn out the lights.
Because in Walford, things are about to go bump in the night.
I'm on the verge of death.
And I'm a scary man in a mask.
And this is the Walford Weekly Podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Walford Weekly Podcast, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes that were released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 25th to Friday the 29th of October. And as you can tell, this is a Halloween show, so we're both all dressed up and ready to party. But before we do, we have to introduce the man, the mask, the person. Who could he be?
Hi! Yes, it's me. Hello, everybody. I tell you what, this isn't even a costume. This is just what I tend to wear on a Friday night. It's fetish night tomorrow night, so I thought I'd just pull it out early for Halloween. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Rob. Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Look at us all
I
dressed
know,
up.
look at this! Look at this!
This is such an occasion. And the makeup, look. I want people to appreciate my makeup here. I'm not saying your hair is
the hood's going
just
straight
on point,
back
I can
on.
tell.
The hair is scarier than the outfit, trust me. Yes, this is us all dressed up for Halloween because we thought, why not? If you're not watching and you're just listening, then it's a shame, really, because Alex is dressed up.
Yeah.
Well, we're both dressed up basically as characters from Squid Games. You know, this show that we were on about a couple of weeks ago that we're both obsessed with. So we thought that we'd we'd buy some outfits. It was a bit scary at one point because we didn't think Alex's was going to arrive on time. So I was just going to sit here in this, and Alex was going to dress up as a vampire or something, which might have looked a tad random, but you know. And also, if you're just listening, you've never gone on the YouTube, I'm 6 foot tall with luscious blonde hair and a six pack. So
that is true. However, that fantasy is now shattered because I'm sure a lot of people are interested to see what we look like for our Halloween special. And although you are sat down, so
yes.
We must say that Rob is sat down at the moment, so he's not actually stood up right now. So he isn't half the size of a door frame. So he's fine.
Yes. Like my new sign, by the way. Look at this. I got this offline and decided to stick it on the wall. Yeah. Got a new Albert Square sign. It'll go well when I've proper redecorated my room. Anyway, well, we're doing Halloween.
You've been so busy, Rob.
I know I have. We're doing Halloween, even if EastEnders didn't choose to do Halloween this week. But we'll keep the spirits alive.
Yeah,
dead,
I know. I thought that too. I thought it was such a letdown that there was nothing Halloweeny at all. And I thought they must be doing something on Friday. Just watching a child doing trick or treating or anything. Have Pearl walking past in a sheet over her head or something like that. Just anything.
Nothing.
But no, nothing at all was celebrated on EastEnders. I thought that was a real shame. However, that's not what's happened in the past of EastEnders, because we're going to yet again delve into Beale's Suitcase. So, as we do every week, we're looking at an episode that happened in this week in the past of EastEnders, and I thought it makes sense that we have a Halloween episode, and why not the very first ever Halloween episode, which was aired on 31st of October 1985, where the residents of the square all get right into the festivities of the holiday and join in for Halloween. Most notably, Sharon decides to play lots and lots of pranks on Wixie because it's his first day at the Vic. More on that in a second. But also Lou has a nice Fowler Halloween party where Pete and Mary is there and Pauline and Arthur, my favourite character, are all there, all apple bobbing and lighting candles. And Ethel turns up dressed up as a witch to do some trick-or-treating so she can earn money for the fireworks display. I mean, Rob, you've never seen this episode before. I have watched it when they were re-airing them on Drama. I rewatched it last night to see it again. It gave me such a nostalgic feel. It was lovely to see them again. Such simpler times. But Rob, what did you think?
Well, I watched it this morning, and frankly, there was nothing more terrifying than Sharon's 80s hairdo. Nobody else needed to dress up, because that's quite a do, isn't it? It's quite a weave. Yeah, it was a nice little episode. I quite liked Ethel going around dressed as a witch, and nobody being... The thing is, Den seemed to be able to tell who was under each mask with no problems at all. Like, people would come in and out of it wearing different masks, and they'd be like, all right, Ali, all right, Steve, yeah, cheers, all right, Pete. Not a single thing. But yeah, and then there was Lou sorting out apple bobbing out of a go up to the river, out of bless a little like 80s little washing up bowl, the simplest little thing you could possibly imagine. I mean, those were simpler days, weren't they? They really were. And just pulling out apples out of that, and then they started doing this thing. I've never heard of this game before. This thing with candles, and like apparently something like the last candle to go out. Yeah, the last candle to go out, you get a wish, and Lou could feel it in her waters. Yeah. Apparently. That Michelle's candle was going to be the last to go out because Michelle hasn't had the best 1985, and I'm sure that her wishes would also start coming true in the future years. Not, but yeah, it was a sweet little episode. You had things like, like you say, Wixie was starting his first day at the Vic, and Sharon was determined to do lots of pranks. So when we say pranks, we're again back in the 80s, full and proper. You know, rubber rats and rubber spiders and things like itching powder and worms that you could stick in a glass of water that would just like appear, like, you know, those little so it was all very odd, all very odd indeed. And then of course all the other stuff are going on, like Angie trying to get on top of marriage counselling for her and Den, but no one was like she couldn't get through. So there was it felt like there was a lot going on. There was a duff with two characters I had zero clue about, Andy and Debbie. Didn't really know a huge amount about them, but they seem to be on the rocks. So, yeah, please tell me.
I want to ask you about Andy and Debbie.
Yes.
Andy and Debbie, when Ben and I were watching classic EastEnders, I was 2 when EastEnders first came out. And so, I didn't really watch it from the early 80s. So to watch them, it was a real joy. And Andy and Debbie were always a butt of jokes between Ben and I on Twitter and on the show, because we just thought they were the worst couple, especially Debbie. I mean, the stories that happened to Debbie. And when Andy, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but when Andy dies by saving a child's life, so an admirable death, he gets knocked down by a lorry because he saves a child who runs in the middle of the road to grab his football. Debbie literally spends about 3 months in mourning, just walking around the square going, is everything okay? I hope it's okay. So Andy and Debbie can literally, they stole that duff. I think that duff should have been just a moment between Nick and Kathy, because Nick is blackmailing Kathy as well, isn't he?
Yes.
He knows Kathy's secret, that she's got another daughter. So,
so he was blackmailing. I wonder what that was about. So he's blackmailing money out of good old Nick. Good old Nick, the king of Halloween, as it were.
I know.
So yeah, quite a nice little episode all in all. However, this week, like we said, we didn't have a huge amount of Halloween stuff this week, but it could be argued that there were certainly some monsters on the square this week.
Oh, Rob, what a link! What a link! We're going to start off maybe with the queen of the monsters then, and that is Janine, who decided that she is going to ramp it up a gear. Now Billy's on her side, she's got Liam on her side. They were like Ocean's 11, but just 3 of them as they walked down the street this week, feeling good about themselves, because they tricked Jay into buying cars off a dealer who doesn't exist, because it was the dermatologist who Janine helped out when she was first introduced on the show. Yeah, so it was nice to see them back. It was nice to have that continuity, and that Janine helped her out, so she's helped Janine out with this. The story's just basically carrying on. It's just a little kind of like, we know it's carrying on by the writers. Are you excited by the story? Are you excited to see Jay kind of being tricked by Janine? And you said last week that you loved that Janine was back on form again. Do you feel the same way, that she's got a posse with Liam and Billy as well?
I mean, yeah, Liam is involved, but maybe not so much. But I like the fact that Janine's got a little scheme going. And I say this again, I'm just glad that it's not anything too insane just yet. It's just incredibly understated for Janine, because now and again she did do these sorts of things. She tries to do some money thing or try and steal a business off somebody. Pretty stuff that you don't necessarily need to be killed for, or that other people don't necessarily need to be killed for. So I don't mind this at all at the minute. I don't think it's going to last very long. I have a feeling, this is what I said last week, I don't think Jay's that much of an idiot. I don't think that she'll be able to afford him for that long. And, You know, we're talking about a dermatologist who got struck off because she was drinking vodka and Janine had to stand in for her. I can't see her being that reliable, a sort of, you know, a sort of compadre in all of this. But I don't know, we'll see where it goes.
Jay's been fooled so far, though, hasn't he? Jay's really been taken in, because he was really excited when he thought he'd cut the deal in the cafe. Yeah. He was like looking at Janine and going, yeah, ooh, yeah, we've got it. So how far do you think Janine can take this before Jay kind of realises that this is Janine after all?
Oh, I mean, it depends what her ultimate plan is. Like, is her plan to sort of get Jay arrested or something, so that he's completely and utterly out of the way, and then she can just kind of take over the business as his second in command or something? Do you reckon is that her ultimate plan? Because what she's also trying to do, obviously, is drive a wedge between Billy and Jay a little bit more. Not that really needed doing, because Billy, just a randomer in the street could say, Jay's looking at you funny. You'd be like, yeah, no, he is. Yeah, hate him. Yeah. So I can't see that that's really going to be too much of an issue for her. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, where do you think this is going at the minute? Because actually, weirdly, with Janine back, it's not even the biggest storyline that's going on at the minute in the square. So Janine's almost sort of taking a backseat to other villains at the minute, which is quite a mad little thing. So where do you think her ultimate plan is?
I mean, I think it is, like you say, it's just to trick Jay. I think the original plan, wasn't it to sell cars from under Jay, to get kind of fiddle the books so it looks like the cars haven't been sold, but she sold them off the lot herself or something like that. So I presume that's just her plan. I mean, I don't really know what she's going to get out of pretending that she's selling cars to Jay through a dealer that doesn't exist. No. But I'm sure Janine's got a path there. She's always plotting it up there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting actually you saying, and I've something we've kind of talked about off air through texts when we kind of talk throughout the week. But you saying that Janine's not the biggest villain on the show right now. It's funny. This is going off the topic already, off of discussing the week perhaps. But there's a bit of an argument where there's people saying that there's too many villains on the show right now. Do you feel there's too many villains on the show, or do you think that's just the way that it should be going? Well,
I mean, the thing is, I've got no issue with Janine being a bit more human as well, because otherwise she just becomes a caricature of herself. So I don't mind her being just normal enough to sort of fit in with the rest of society, you know, and then have all the other people, like who Aaron or something, who we'll discuss later, sort of do their big thing and then kind of have a shelf life. You know, this sort of storyline kind of keeps Janine around rather than us realising that, that's her done in about 3 months then. Do you know what I mean? I do agree with when you kind of think about, is there almost too much going on at the minute for Janine to really be the focus? And it depends where you... I suppose it's a subjective thing of where you kind of want Janine's role to be within the square. Do you think that she should be kind of at the top of the tree and like ruling all and being like the main antagonist around the square? Or do you think that she should kind of step in and out of things? Because obviously, you know, Janine had stints where she was in it for like 5 years, 4 years, you know, so you can't constantly be at the top of the antagonistic tree, as it were, for that amount of time. So, I mean, you could argue it either way, I suppose. What do you think?
I mean, I think you've hit the nail there, actually. It's something I never really thought about, and that is that with Janine, they need to think about the long term here, because I think that Janine was never going to be a flash in the pan character that they just brought back just to kind of reel people in. I think they've got a long term goal with her, and it's shown that now from kind of a bit of a disappointment perhaps on my party of that, is that, you know, we thought that Ginny was going to come in, bulldoze the show and completely kind of change the dynamic of the square. While with Aaron, that seems to be the case. He's obviously got a shelf life there. He's someone that the writers have obviously thought about being a story that could perhaps only be like a week or so. And so... A week or so, sorry, longer than a week, obviously. Yeah, it's so I see what you're saying. So maybe there are a lot of villains on the show right now, but a lot of them are probably just kind of short-term villains. I mean, you know, a lot have come on and out the show recently, haven't they? You know, with Raymond's grandmother, she kind of came in, had like a month stint, and then left. Yeah. And you know, it's whether the characters like Aaron become so liked by the public that they have to then kind of rewrite the history like they did with Stuart, because Stuart was obviously meant to be only a short-term solution to a problem, and then he ended up being really well liked and fondly watched by a lot of the public. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, like you, I like that they've taken this direction with Janine, and I'm sure they'll ramp it up to 11 with her at some point. But with Janine, I think the only way they can do that is when she gets herself in a relationship, a really damaging relationship. Which is why a lot of people kind of thought that she'd get together with Gray, but that's not kind of going to happen.
Thank God.
Maybe that's not. Yeah, no, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Another story this week was Tom and Dotty. Dotty's asked Tom to really get his foot into gear because he needs to get Sonia's money, the inheritance money. Tom's still very kind of resilient, wanting to not want to do it because he's made this bond, this relationship with Sonia that he really loves, and he really likes that he's got this daughter-father relationship with him. And so he's decided maybe he can find another way round, and that is getting other people to invest in his vegan meat-free business, which I approve of, Tom.
Yeah, I thought you
very
might.
much of. Well done, you. But the first person he went to was Peter, perhaps on the advice of Kathy. And Peter was very dismissive of it, saying that,
Peter Beale, that famous
kids
vegan.
aren't doing that nowadays. Well, also Peter Beale, that famous businessman who,
Yes.
obviously knows the future trends and decided that veganism isn't the way forward. I mean, did you like this kind of interaction? Was it a kind of like a way of getting Tom and Kathy closer together? What's the future for them, do you think?
I mean, maybe. I think Kathy is going to be the one that sort of keeps Tom on the right side of the law. Ultimately, I think the lure of Kathy Beale, which frankly could pull any of us. Let's be fair here. It could pull me, it could pull you. She is a goddess and Adonis that anybody would turn good for. And I think that she's going to be the one that really sort of keeps Tom on the straight and narrow ultimately. Because this whole thing with Dotty, I mean, Dotty's now getting desperate because she is hoping and needing money to stick Sandy in rehab should she be found. Because Sandy's off, in the streets of London somewhere with a needle in her arm. And Dotty's obviously trying to find her and wants to stick her in rehab. And that unfortunately costs quite a lot of money. And that's what she is now saying that she needs this inheritance for. Tom is taking too long to get it. Now, the thing is, I don't actually believe that Tom has a plan at this point. I think now we know about her. Now we've been let in on the plan. It kind of feels like there isn't really that much of a plan. It's kind of like, what is Tom actually trying to do with Sonia, other than clearly enjoying the time that he's spending with her and enjoying this sort of newfound daughter and father relationship? And Dotty's the only one that's sort of going, money, hi, you were here for a reason. So, I don't know, what do you think the plan actually is?
Well, the plan, I think, was perhaps that he was trying to get Sonia to invest, because he did ask Sonia to invest, and Sonia was interested.
Yes.
But I think now he knows that he's doing it to trick her. He's kind of put the hold on it and said kind of like, oh no, you don't really want to be invested in that. Because originally, wasn't it buildings that he was getting invested in? And it's now this meat-free company that he's trying to get investment in. I mean, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that he's going to try to maybe con the square, and lots of residents on the square lose a lot of money because of Tom. Again, kind of shortening his. Yeah, this is why I'm wondering. That's why they're kind of getting together with Kathy. Wilmot Brown and Kathy have a history.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
As you say, it's a very Wilmot Brownie type story, isn't it? And Beale always gets sucked in somewhere. It was Lauren last time with the Brown family, and would it make it Peter this time? And we're not shy of saying that Peter's not exactly the brightest
bulb in the box,
candle on the cake, or whatever.
The brightest candle on the cake. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. yeah, you know what I mean, though. I like to make things up. Yes. So I think he's gone for the right target, but again, I think that maybe Tom might pull out of it once he realises that him and Kathy are now getting closer together as well. He's a sucker for love, isn't he, old Tom? He just wants to be loved. Yeah, and then I think that's going to happen. That he's eventually going to say, oh right, do you know what? Screw this. I'm not interested. I'm going to be legit. I'm going to get with Kathy. And as far as Sonia's concerned, I'm her dad. And then Dotty is going to kind of go mad and reveal everything. I think is ultimately where it's going. Possibly over Christmas dinner, and then maybe a turkey will be thrown. There's still the chance, Alex. There is still the chance of flying poultry on Christmas Day, and I'm ready for it. And I think that might be where it comes from. Who knows? I want that for me. I really hope the writers are watching. Yeah. In fact, they've probably filmed Christmas by now, haven't they? But I've been talking about it for long enough. That there's a flying turkey. I've been talking about it for long enough, and if it is in there, I'm going to say it's just for me. So there's nothing you can do to prove otherwise. Yeah. Another story that I've kind of cut into two this week is with the Foxes and the Fox Hubbards. And that is, first of all, that Chelsea has finally admitted that she is pregnant to her mum.
Denise, and Denise seems over the moon by the whole occasion, seeing
all right
a
with
fresh
it.
start and that the family can expand and grow. Yeah, and seems really happy about it. I mean, were you surprised by Denise's reaction? Did you think that she'd be throwing turkeys or meat-based products across the room at her daughter?
I mean, I kind of got the impression that Denise was kind of like, do you know what, fine, I've got enough to deal with at the minute. You have a baby, that's fine, we'll deal. That's not for another 9 months, and we'll deal with that when it comes around. It's right. Clearly, I am not destined to have a peaceful life. Fine. You just sit and you go throw up in a sink, and while I'm dealing with the whole Kim and Raymond and Vincent thing, and we'll cross you when we come to it. I think the thing that she was kind of most annoyed by was the fact that she's going to be a nanny Denise. That's going to be a nice thing to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I was surprised. I think we're both surprised by how public this has become. Because 2 weeks ago we were kind of like, I don't think anyone's ever going to know about it. I think this whole thing is going to be a massive secret. And literally the next episode, Chelsea was like, "Oh, by the way, everybody." So I think it's going to be all right. I mean, I think the big thing with this is obviously going to be Gray and where he kind of slots into the scenario. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, do you think that Gray and what do you think is Gray's next move is, really? I mean, kind of, he wants, obviously, to have his... Because a lot of the things when he was with Chantal was, he became obsessed with the idea of having another baby, didn't he? And now he's got that. He's not necessarily with the woman that he wanted it to be, because welcome to Walford, but it's still another child that he has on the way. So what do you think his next course of action will be?
Yeah, you're right there. Gray wanted a child, and when Chantal unfortunately miscarried, it kind of made Gray's resentment towards Chantal much more deeper and frightening for her, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, if he could have the kid without Chelsea, I think that would be his ultimate goal. Whether he would carry out something so it allows that to happen, I don't know. I mean, I think, again, leaked photos that have come out for what's going to happen around Christmas, New Year. This might be a spoiler if people don't like, on Twitter or anything like that. But, there is a wedding happening around that time. And so... I
don't know how we're getting to that.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, that's obviously Gray's goal. What's going to happen with that is going to be something else in it entirely. I think that Gray is properly hooked up on Whitney as well, and I think that he made that fatal mistake last week where he had a go at Whitney, and I just think that I don't know. It's weird. There's a part of me that believes that perhaps he's going to be with Chelsea, but he's going to sleep with Whitney while Chelsea and Gray are in that engagement period, and so it makes things even worse and makes Chelsea... I don't know, it makes Chelsea kind of not see Gray for what he is anymore, because she's got that kind of jealousy because he's always thinking about Whitney in the background. But yeah, I mean, I worry for Chelsea, but I'm hoping it's a worry that's unwarranted, because I would hate to think that poor old Denise loses more of her children. They just seem to be, dropping like flies, don't they?
I mean, to be fair, you've got to remember, I'm guessing what the idea behind this is, Gray has two superpowers, obviously removing CCTV, but also to kind of make women forgive him for things, for kind of outbursts, because that's how they work, these sorts of people. They're very good at kind of saying, I was just angry, I'm just sad, look at me, I'm good looking and I'm beautiful and I'm rich, it's going to be fine. Because, of course, Gray is also sort of started a new job, kind of flipping burgers, hasn't he? Bless him. Still going to this job dressed as a lawyer, but then is off to flip burgers. So he is kind of on his knees at this point. He's got no money, no prospects, and a kid on the way, which I think again is kind of going to kind of be chipping away at his brain and making him a little bit more unstable. So obviously Gray's going to be the one to watch coming up to Christmas and New Year. I favour New Year for Gray, for a big kind of spike in the Gray storyline. I think that's probably the sort of place where you'd stick that. We'll have other things going on at Christmas, I think. But New Year, I think, is going to be where we're heading for Gray. Where it goes from there, who knows? There is a part of me that kind of thinks, how much longer can Gray be a thing? How many more... I still think he's got one more death in him. There's too much... There's too many sort of big events coming up, with Christmas, New Year, all of that. So I still think he's got at least one more death in him, but who knows? We'll see.
Who do you think the death could be? Go on. Put your money where your mouth is. Come on.
Oh, I mean, maybe he...
Laura?
See, I don't think that Laura's got any kind of need to kind of come back into his life now, has she? Because she's got her way. She's got him sacked from the thing. So I think Laura's done, unfortunately, because Laura was amazing. I don't know. Maybe he'll cause Chelsea to miscarriage in some way. What do you think? Something horrible is going to happen at some point. Maybe.
That'd be horrific.
It would be horrific. Thing. It would be very Grey-like, though, to happen. Bad things happen with Grey, unfortunately.
True.
Who knows? I mean, if this storyline has taught us anything, literally anything is possible. Who knows? It could kill off Sharon for all we know. Like the way it goes, God knows where it's going to go. So we'll see. Nerve-wracking.
Not our Shaz, not our Shazza.
Nah.
She's she can't go. She can't leave. No, not at all. There's another story also where Kim had to finally tell her daughter Pearl that
that was lovely.
Pearl's dad, her husband, has sadly died. Sadly died. Was killed. Died. I'm putting such a nice little spin on it. Yeah. Sadly died.
Sadly murdered. Sadly shot in the head. We will miss him greatly.
Yeah, may he rest in peace. Phil lent on, and I got the guy's name this week as well. Harry, not Vincent too. Harry,
Howie, the children's entertainer.
That's it. Phil lent on him and said basically, if you put evidence toward the police, then it's not going to be worth your while, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Harry then ran away, and Kim got very upset, felt a bit hopeless, felt like she couldn't do anything. Before we talk about that beautiful scene between Pearl and Kim, and Denise watching on with her cake, I wanted to ask you, what did you make of Phil saying to Jack? Because Jack was the one who directed Phil to Harry, so he knew where to find him. So he could threaten him. And then Phil said afterwards, "You now owe me one." What does Jack owe Phil? Because to me, he doesn't owe him anything.
Because the thing is, I think Jack is trying to sort of get Denise out of the trouble, isn't he? Because Jack's kind of sole aim at the minute is to sort of try and keep Denise out of trouble, keep himself out of trouble, keep the kids out of trouble. So I think his idea was that if he gets Phil involved, Phil can kind of go and do Phil stuff and be scary and throw people against walls and growl and groan a lot. And then the trouble will go away. And I think Phil knows that that's his role. And it's, Phil's played that role willingly billions of times over the years because people will go up to Phil, give him a tenner and say, "Can you go and do that bloke over there, please?"
Denise.
Exactly. So, yeah, exactly. So, and let's be honest, the idea of having Jack in his pocket would be very appealing to Phil because the two of them aren't exactly the best of mates. So I think that's more, it's kind of like a manipulation thing from Phil's perspective as well, isn't it? It's kind of like, yeah, you owe me now, Jack. Ha ha, dee ha, ha ha ha. So now he's got a sort of copper in under his... I mean, slowly but surely, Phil is taking over the Metropolitan, taking over Scotland Yard because he's got Callum doing what he wants. He's got Jack. Yeah, he's got Jack. He's got Richie. So he's slowly taking over the force.
But did you not think that perhaps Phil kind of should have seen it as that it was not, he's kind of helped himself out as well. So basically, they're kind of neutral. So they kind of helped each other out on this occasion. I do, from your perspective, I see it. But for me, I just think that Phil doesn't, I don't think Jack owes him anything.
No, probably not in moral terms at all. But again, like I say, Phil's always worked like that though. It's like almost, it's Phil, isn't it? Everything is almost everything that you get Phil to do, or anything that Phil ever does, is almost some form of business transaction, isn't it? So if you get Phil to, you could be shopping with Phil. You could pass Phil in Morrison's or something and say, "Phil, can you reach me that thing off the top of the shelf?" "Yeah, you owe me now." It's just the way that Phil kind of works. So I'm interested, but also I think what this also does is kind of, there's now a thing between Jack and Phil that Denise doesn't know about, that Kim doesn't know about. So basically there's all these little secrets kind of like blossoming away within the Fox Truman household, mixed in with Phil as well, because now they've got the salon back. So Denise kind of thinks that Phil is a little bit more helpful, and she's now going to be more compliant with Raymond's. So I think it's definitely more about Phil asserting his status over Jack, because that's always the thing with those two, isn't it? That little kind of understated rivalry that we've had over the years with Phil and Jack. That was literally just, I think, another move in it.
So with Kim then, Kim told Pearl that her dad's died, as we say. And there was that scene when they were on the sofa. And gorgeous. I thought it was really well portrayed by Tamika. I thought it was really beautiful. Good. I thought it was done as I would imagine a mother would speak to a child. I thought it It was just really gentle. It reminded me a little bit of that
really
scene
nice.
years ago when Dot was telling, I can't remember who it was, but it was telling a young child that someone in their family had died, and the way she kind of explained it to her, not in a patronising way,
Yeah.
and that's what I liked the most. It wasn't done kind of like, they're in heaven. Remember when the rabbit died and I said it went to a special farm? But that's what Daddy's doing. It wasn't done like that.
Yeah,
And
Daddy's
I
at
really
the
loved
farm.
that scene
Yeah.
between them. Yeah, I mean,
it was
lovely to see
really
Pearl
nice
as well, because we were only saying a couple of weeks
I
ago
know.
that Pearl has not been in an episode this year.
I
There
mean,
she was,
doesn't
with lines.
doesn't show up to work for months and months and months, and then comes back for her first day,
What a
nails a
diva.
scene. That's a child actress right there. We're going to keep hold of her because Pearl's great. No, that whole scene was brilliant, and I thought Tamika absolutely nailed it. It was really nicely written. It was really nicely directed, beautifully acted. And I liked Denise kind of sat on the stairs as well in the background, kind of knowing more about the situation than Kim does. And she's got not only the fact that she's watching Pearl be told that her father is dead and watching her sister have to tell her daughter that her father is dead, but she's also got the fact that she knows exactly why Vincent's dead. She's seen Vincent die. So she's got all of this kind of going around in her head at the minute. So I really liked that sort of dynamic. And then she sort of came in, got rid of Pearl with biscuits, because that's how you get rid of a grieving child. Have a biscuit. All right, go take the biscuits upstairs. Go on, get lost. And then there was that really nice scene between Kim and Denise at the end. It was lovely. Really, really, really nice. 10 out of 10 for that scene. Liked it a lot.
So is this the line drawn now, or do you think there's always going to be that little part of Kim that wants to know the truth?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we haven't had any kind of indication that she doesn't suspect Phil any less, because last week Kim was saying that she thought that Phil was wholly responsible, and she hasn't really spoken to anybody about her full suspicions on that yet. So I think that she's kind of sitting on that and trying to work out what to do about it. And I think kind of dealing with Pearl is going to be the thing that kind of spurs her on to sort of try and bring Phil only down, which I think is another reason why they've now got Phil kind of so involved with the sort of Jack and Denise dynamic now, because while Kim's trying to poke at that, Phil thinks that he's got kind of control over the situation. I think that's probably where it's going, So I don't know, we'll see, but I think that's what they're doing.
Yes, I mean, yes, it's frightening that Phil has this power over them, and I'm hoping that he uses it responsibly. But as we always say, it's Phil Mitchell, so I very, very much doubt that will be the case.
Far too many syllables for Phil.
Rob, I believe you've got
Yes,
a little
Alex.
treat this Halloween season.
Well, as it's Halloween, I thought we might pull out one of our little games this week. Would you like to play Martin Fowler's Scarily Five a Day? Now then, Alex, we haven't played this game for a little while. So just to remind the viewers and listeners, Martin Fowler's 5 a Day. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give Alex 2 characters, and what I want him to do is find connections between the characters, but he needs to link me 5 times to get from one character to the other. So I'm going to name the 2 characters, and he now then has to work out a route via different characters to get to the end character in 5 guesses. Did I explain that complicatedly enough? I think that was all right, wasn't it? He has, I think it was, what we do, 20 seconds?
20 seconds? 20 seconds. Wow. This is the trick, is it, in your treat?
Yes, because it's Halloween, so it makes it scarier. Right, so because it's Halloween, I thought I'd do it with 2 dead characters this time. 2 characters from beyond the grave. So I would like you, Alex, in 20 seconds, to give me 5 connections to reach Paul Coker to Pat Butcher.
From Paul Coker. Oh, Paul.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Paul Coker to Pat Butcher.
Don't give yourself extra thinking time.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, go on then. So I need. Okay, go on. Okay, go now. Yeah,
go.
start.
Go.
Okay. Paul Coker has a brother called. No, Paul Coker. Paul Coker.
10 seconds left.
Has a wife called Birdie. Birdie used to work on the market with Martin Fowler. Martin Fowler has a mum who's Pauline Butcher, and Pauline Butcher knows Pat Butcher. Pauline
I've
Butcher.
never
Pauline
heard.
Fowler. Paul.
I've never heard such utter claptrap in my entire life. For a start, you reckon that Paul Coker has a wife called Birdie, do you? It's the first thing you said.
Oh,
so
Paul Coker, sorry.
Married to his
I heard
nan,
the word
according
Coker.
to you. Married to his nan. Right, viewers and listeners, I would hope that you did.
You said go, and I didn't know what I was doing.
That's because it's Halloween! Rah! Yes, so I would hope, viewers and listeners, that you did slightly better. Shall I give you the connections that I got from Paul to Pat, and we'll see if it makes a little bit more sense.
This is why I hate.
So I have gone.
I hate games.
Because you have to win, Alex. You're too competitive. That's your problem. It ruins the enjoyment for you. Right, I have gone for Paul was in a relationship with Ben, who is the son of Phil, who was married to Sharon, who was the adoptive daughter of Angie, who was married to Den, who had numerous flings with Pat in the 80s.
That's 7 a day.
Off screen, in bits.
It did 7 steps.
No, it's not. I had 5 connections in between. Either way.
No. 5 a day is 3 connections. So it's from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, I gave you lots of options then, didn't I? Either way, it makes more sense than Paul being married to his nan.
Fair.
I thought it was
and yes, you're absolutely right.
The
Den Watts
did
sleep with Pat Butcher. Then again, if you want to watch the classic episodes, it's either 85 or 86 where they share a Christmas together and they reminisce about their times where they were romantically involved. Yeah, so I know that. I'll talk about that all day long.
Oh, well, good for you. Good for you. But you thought that the Coker family was completely and utterly filled with incest. Yeah, that was your assumption. That was the connection that you kind of reached.
You know, I want an incest story on the show, Rob. You know, I want an incest story on the show.
Yes, but you can't start applying it to storylines that have been and gone where there was no incest involved in it. Honestly, Alex. Honestly,
that is true.
So there we are.
All right.
How did you get on, viewers and listeners? Hopefully better than that. And that was Martin Fowler's Scary 5 a day.
Okay, well, after that humiliation, I think it's time for us to talk about maybe another character that feels like he's been humiliated on the square, and that is Harvey, who has got his son's back up now, because Aaron is really fighting his corner this week by basically calling Ash out in the middle of the Queen Vic. Talking to Kat and getting Harvey's job back, kind of taking it as a win for himself, even though it was Ash who kind of retracted her statement. Now, that's the first thing I want to ask you about. She's retracted the statement, and there's been a lot of debate, and we say it every week about whether, what Harvey had said was or wasn't racially infused. Ash did say that she felt a little bit wound up anyway, because she had that patient who kind of decided that she didn't want to be cared for by Ash because of the colour of her skin. And so kind of just moved it along with that conversation she had with Harvey. But do you think Ash should have stepped down the way she did, or does that show her a bit of growth that she kind of saw it maybe for what it was after all?
I mean, honestly, if this woman in the hospital knew how much trouble she's going to be causing in the next few months solely, it's all links to her. The thing is, isn't it? What this basically is demonstrating is the times when people are sort of have these sorts of microaggressions flung at them, or had something said to them or done in some way, and then sort of being forced to apologise because the notion of being racist, of being known as racist, is far more offensive than the actual racism itself. And it's something that is quite prevalent in society at the minute, and was demonstrated beautifully on the square this week. Aaron, I mean, what a lovely lad he is. I mean, I tell you, he's only been around a week or so now, but I think he's already demonstrating himself to be one of the most unlikable characters we've had in a very, very long time. Which is, all full credit to the actor. He's doing a great job, because what I think we've got with Aaron at the minute is that I'm sort of feeling that thing that I had with Gray at the start of the Chantal and him storyline, where you're sort of on edge when he appears on screen. It's like, oh my God, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? So this is getting really interesting with those two now, and it's ramping up. God knows where it's going to end up by Christmas. But yeah, I think that Harvey is. But I think almost Harvey seems a little bit fearful of his son in some way. Do you get that vibe? I think that there is sort of vibe that Aaron is very much the head of the family, and I wonder if we're going to find out that Aaron had a lot of involvement in his mum being sort of taken away or getting rid of or something. What do you think?
I wondered that too. I wondered the exact same thing, whether Aaron had a hand to play for the reason why the mother left. Maybe something. I mean, it sounds a little bit like how Gray we found out had abused his mother. Maybe Aaron did something similar, or upset her in so much by his views, his right-wing views. Because let's not beat around the bush anymore. We know that Aaron must be connected somehow to some kind of right-wing cause.
Yeah,
and is an outright
easily.
racist. Yeah, I mean, he found out Bobby was Muslim this week. The face, if looks could kill, Aaron literally would have murdered Bobby in the pub there and then. When he found out that he was a Muslim, and he just doesn't like other ethnic people. Really nasty. He came back actually. He had 2 dates this week with Tiff. Both of them ended abruptly because he kept getting text messages and he was like, "Well, I've got to go." And on the second occasion, he came back with, his fists were bloody and he was washing them off and bruised, and so it must be linked somehow to him beating someone up in part of a group. I mean, how deep do you think this group is? Do you think it's a kind of like a local London group, or do you think it's a national thing? What do you think it is? Could it be a political group?
It could be a political group. I do wonder if we're going to find out those thugs that beat Dana up a few weeks back. I don't know whether we're going to find out that Aaron actually knows these people, whether he's sort of head of that little gang. I mean, I think it's undisputable now that we're going down some sort of right-wing extremism story, which I've got to be honest, I'm really fascinated by. I think this is a really exciting story to tell, and actually they're doing it quite well so far. It's a really important story to tell, and I am putting my full trust in them that they're going to do this absolutely perfectly. Because to be honest with you, you're stupid if you don't. That's really, really bad if you don't, but they will, because it's EastEnders and they will. It's going to be fine. But it's going to be a rough story, and they've clearly got some great actors involved in it. The guy who plays Aaron was Charlie. I can't remember his surname, but he's great. He's really nailed the role of Aaron, because Aaron does kind of feel like he belongs in EastEnders in terms of his villain status, doesn't he? He's sort of he's walking around in his suit and tie and sort of handing out fivers, because that's what villains tend to do in EastEnders. Yeah, I'll pay for that. Yeah, I'll get that. Yeah, I'll pay for that. Rich people are bad. He'll start smoking soon. As soon as he pulls a cigarette out, we run for cover. Where I think this might be going is I'm beginning to wonder if Harvey is one of these people that is just sort of a bit dense with that sort of thing, rather than deliberately antagonistic. I wonder if we've got Harvey as one of these people that sort of just is a dinosaur and doesn't really know. Those sorts of people that kind of stumble into saying the wrong thing and sort of then wonder why the whole world is offended, and it's kind of like, what's wrong with you? And then when you've got someone like Aaron, who is clearly actually more aware of that sort of thing, he knows what to say to wind people up. He knows kind of what the wrong thing and the right thing to say in this situation is. So when you've got somebody like that kind of stoking Harvey from beneath, it's going to then... He can very easily persuade Harvey that everything that he's saying and thinking is absolutely correct. And it was very, very deliberate that they've kind of now made the introduction of Bobby and the Muslim thing, and the looks between them. That's now lit that fuse, for want of a better phrase. It's all going to start snowballing very, very quickly, I think, and I'm nervous about it, because it's one of those storylines where you naturally do kind of, it kind of puts your teeth on edge a little bit, because it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be, which is the type of storyline that EastEnders has always done so well. Those stories that kind of put you on edge and kind of make you face the grim, warts and all graphic look at life and the tough facts of life, and that's the way life is at the minute. And EastEnders has always been the soap, I think, to really highlight these issues. And so far, so good with how they're dealing with this. But where it goes from here, it's kind of got that feeling of the sky's the limit, doesn't it? In a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby and Ash and Ikra found out also that the permission to build the mosque has been granted.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence. Yeah. So that must be somehow linked to, again, what might be happening a few months or a couple of months down the line, which so happens to land itself on... Which also so happens
to be next to the gay bar.
Yeah, yes. Although he doesn't have much issue with that yet. ...
No, what do you think I am? Some sort of homophobe?
Imagine that's the hill he dies on.
He's going to go in. He's going to go. Just before he does something horrible to the mosque, he's just going to nip in and go, "Can everyone leave, please? I've got a bit of an issue with the building next door. Nothing with you guys, though. Have some money. Drinks are on me. Have a good night."
It's funny that you mentioned actually Harvey being a bit fearful of his son, because did you notice this week also Dana, whenever the mention of her brother was came up on the show, she seemed to have a very mixed reaction to the people who asked her about him. Again, we know there's a past between them because he kind of shot her down last week when she was kind of stood up and saying, meant to be apologising. What's going to be happening between them two, do you think? Do you worry that Dana is in danger around her brother, as in that he would literally throw his own sister into the firing line in order to get himself out of trouble, perhaps to death?
I don't know if he'd do that. I think what's more likely to happen, I'm going to say it right now. I think Dana's going to be dead by Christmas. I'm telling you now. That's my prediction. Dana is not going to see 2022. I think that's pretty much nailed in now. Not from anything that's been spoiled or anything. It's just a pure prediction. The oracle that I am. I genuinely don't believe. I think that something horrible is going to happen to the mosque. I think Aaron is going to be solely responsible for said horrible thing that happens in the mosque, and I think that he is going to accidentally kill his sister in whatever he decides to do to the mosque. That is my prediction. Which it kind of puts Bobby in a really sad time for New Year's, but Bobby can't be happy for too long. We're in EastEnders, for goodness sake, and he is the happiest we've ever seen him at the minute in a lot of ways, isn't he? So we can't have that for long. So I think we're due some heartbreak at Christmas. I think it's going to be one of the I don't know. I get in the feeling that this is going to be a really, really, really big Christmas. Because last year, I think, was a little bit sort of understated in the grand scheme of things, wasn't it? Like, the scariest thing we had was Sharon setting, with her Christmas pud. Hilarious and as camp as it was, I think this year is going to be a little bit more high octane and a little bit darker. Which, I do love myself a dark EastEnders Christmas. It's going to be very jolly viewing, I'm sure. But I think that's where it's going.
Something to have a mince pie with.
Yeah, bit of right-wing extremism over Christmas dinner. Yeah. Yeah,
why not? So no projection show this year with Ian being put on there saying that 19 whatever year he died,
No,
none of that.
No, I don't think we're getting that this year.
I'm wondering. I agree that I think that Dana isn't long for this earth, but I think that it might be almost done deliberately, almost like an ultimatum.
Do you? Okay.
Aaron, as if to say, like, you either give up Bobby or I will willingly just leave you in this building.
Really? I think it'd be more interesting. I think it'd be more interesting.
Aaron is a very, very bad character.
He's a very bad man. He's a very bad man.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any dispute with that. He's a very, very, very nasty person. He's not a nice person at all. He gets very cross about anybody that isn't the norm, essentially. But I think it's more interesting if he does it accidentally, because then there's that secret, isn't there? There's that kind of added drama. Oh my God, I've killed my sister, which puts him and Bobby in exactly the same spot by accidentally killing their sister, which brings them together, which I think is 10 times more interesting than him hitting her over the head with a lead piping. But, we'll see.
That's true. or a music box.
Yes. Yes.
It's funny also saying about Aaron being very bad. I've not seen a reaction, because obviously there's characters who are evil characters, but a lot of people like them, on social media or every day, because they like bad characters. Bad characters are interesting to watch. Aaron really has taken, like, to the public a kind of like a turn. Like, people hate him. Kind of like to the point where they just want him off the show because he's like, I don't like him. I want him off the show. I don't like him being on there. And but I don't think it's about being them. I don't think it's them being childish about it. I just think it's genuinely like when you hate a character so much that you don't want them to be on the show because you like kind of the status quo of how the show is. And I think Aaron has literally shaken it up on the square in like a week. And it's really kind of, upset the flow for a lot of the viewers on the show who watch the show. And they just think, and I like that. I like that that's what Aaron's done. So,
yeah. And then we're purists with that sort of thing, aren't we? We're purists, and we know what those sorts of characters are for, don't we? They're about starting a conversation. They're about garnering a reaction from the viewers. And to have this much of a reaction already, I think is great.
So, next up then is Jean. Jean and Stacey is back. Jean's very excited, and Stacey has a secret. But before she can share her secret, she decides to break into the Panesar household, thanks by stealing Kheerat's keys after they had a little conflab in the cafe, and use Suki's bath and shower because Suki won't fix their boiler. Which kind of gets Stacey in a lot of trouble with her probation officer a little bit later on. Now, before we talk about any of that, though, I want to talk about, first of all, the scene where Stacey and Janine meet for the first time in years in the Queen Vic.
Not long enough.
And Stacey, and they have a bit of a Barney. It's quite a reserved Barney, quite a turned down one, nothing too major, but they say a few choice words to each other.
But there's a look.
Unfortunately, in front of Lily, Lily discovers that her mum was accused of stabbing someone, thanks to Janine. Now, I don't think that's... And the fact that Lily also reacted to that, I don't think that's a passing comment. I think that's something that's going to be brought back up again a little bit later on. But did you love the scene between Janine and Stacey? I mean, you've been championing Janine and Stacey...
This moment,
storyline together for a while, and this moment. So, did you enjoy it?
I mean, yes, I enjoyed what we got. I wanted more, obviously. You know, there's a clip on YouTube of that entire Vic scene. You know, from the moment that Stacey walks in, and there's the bit with Martin, and then after the Janine thing, there's another little bit with Martin where she kind of frog marches out the Vic. The whole Vic scene in itself is a minute and 20 long. That's really not that long at all, which means the Janine and Stacey thing went on for about 40 seconds. It's not long enough for me. I wanted like the full on scene. Hopefully, like you say, there was some seeds being planted that this is not the end of their because my worst nightmare was the fact that they were going to have that initial sort of you stay away from me then, and then they literally would, and there'd be no interaction between the pair of them whatsoever. Hopefully, what that little scene did was, sort of set this, because I thought it was actually really interesting for them to remember that this is the first time that they will have come face to face since Janine withdrew her statement about the stabbing. So hopefully that and the fact, like you say, the fact that Lily overheard that, it's going to be interesting. So yeah.
I wondered if Lily was going to bring it up to Scarlett in the future, and that's maybe going to then... That's what I wondered.
Yeah, it's possible. Because there seems to have been no interaction between Lily and Scarlett so far. And I kind of was expecting them to sort of just become mortal enemies just because their mums are. So, I mean, obviously, that we're still fairly early into Janine's return thing at the minute. She's only been back like a couple of months, so I suppose there's lots of time for them to sort of really start spreading this stuff out. And let's be honest, at the minute, it seems that they've got a lot more to be getting on with rather than sort of build, So I suppose there's time. Yes, so the Slaters broke into the Panesars this week. Jean stole a towel. And a very soft towel. It seems that Suki has the best towels in the land, and burnt it in the oven. Because she kept trying to hide it because she seemed to think that this towel was going to be like incriminating evidence that would send everybody to jail. What did you think of the Stacey and Kheerat scenes this week, and the fact that Stacey apparently is like a keen origamist since she's come out of prison? It seemed a little bit sort of kind of like, this is that swan that Stacey folded in the cafe. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all a little bit odd, like, especially the scene where they went, when they went into the Panesar's place and they sort of, they went in the shower, and then Stacey went into the bathroom with like her hair a certain way, and then came back clearly 5 seconds later when they just went, right, start again and action. Oh, lovely hairdryer. It makes my hair exactly the same as it was before.
I mean, you can't really do much with Stacey's hair, even though she's a hairdresser.
No,
it's
just
true. Long, straight hair, isn't it? She just kind of tends it wearing it down. I thought that the origami thing was a bit... It just reminded me of like...
It was a bit naff.
Break and just kind of like... And it was obviously used as a bit of a tenuous link, so Kheerat was able to link Stacey to the break
very tenuous
of the house.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, it was a shame. I thought that there was a really interesting moment when Kheerat and Stacey first got together, and I thought, this is interesting. They're remembering that they did hook up, and they're kind of friendly with each other, and they're kind of fine. And it was kind of just used really just as a kind of as a plot device for then it was Jags's watch stolen, wasn't it? It was stolen from the flat, and then Suki got very, very angry. I mean, this was old form Suki as well. This is Suki back to form. Now Honey's gone out of the picture. She's just kind of just back to the way she was. But yeah, it was a bit unfortunate that obviously Suki decided to then go have a Barney with Stacey in her house while the probation officer was there. For the probation officer who just seconds before had said, "Oh, clearly you're getting on very well. You're kind of getting yourself back used to civilized life and, becoming a civilian and, outside of prison." And then Suki comes barging in and says, "Right, you're out. You stole my towels and my watch and all kinds of bits and pieces. What is this, Big Ben?" And it's like,
Love that line.
I felt a bit... I felt a bit sorry for poor old Stacey.
But then, of course, there is also the revelation this week that Stacey, while she was away, she got married. We discussed this last week. And we meet Stacey's new partner this week, and that is Eve, who is a woman that she met in prison. Now, we kind of suspect that there was going to be some sort of underhand sort of scheme going on where she was doing it for a reason. But it seemed a bit... I mean, this whole Stacey thing was ridiculous this week, but I didn't mind it because Eve is a really interesting character, so it's kind of given us... It's taken with one hand, but kind of given us something nice in the other, so that's fine. But this whole thing I don't really understand. So the idea was that if she marries Eve, then the probation officer kind of sees that Eve is living in a kind of stable environment. So what? What happens if the probation officer doesn't see that she's in a stable environment? Does she get put into care? Does she get taken back to the pound? What? I don't understand what the point is, really.
like a puppy. It was odd, wasn't it? Because I guess, but Stacey seemed surprised that Eve was out so early too. So I guess Stacey had always
none of it really
plotted
made
it in
sense.
her head that she thought that she thought that she was going to have some time to kind of get herself settled in before Eve appeared. Not that she seemed disappointed that Eve was out, because Eve was clearly they're very good friends on the inside, and now they're presumably going to be good friends on the outside. I mean, I'm talking about shelf life. We've talked about shelf life this week. This week's episode should be called about the shelf life of a character. But what is the shelf life of Eve? What's going to happen to Eve? Because Eve clearly doesn't care about people's impressions of her. She smacked Zack and Martin this week, both thinking that both of them were Martin Fowler. So she because as clearly she will. I was concerned because I agreed with Jean's concern because clearly Eve will do anything to help Stacey out. So to what end would that be, do you think? Yeah, I mean, we were told, it was made incredibly crystal clear that Eve is, and I quote, an angry, volatile lesbian. So it's interesting. I think she's a really interesting character. I liked her immediately. I thought it was a pretty good intro to a new character. She seems like someone who could stick around. She kind of reminds me of Shirley in a few ways. I liked the fact that those two instantly seemed to have a connection, and the fact that Eve fancied Shirley. I mean, if Linda Henry is a beautiful woman, but if Shirley is Eve's type, then that's a woman who's not going to take anything from anybody. She likes someone who can fight her own corner, does Eve, which is probably why she's attracted to Stacey. It's it's going to be interesting. I can't wait for the rest of the square to sort of learn that Stacey is now married to a woman, especially for Janine to find out. That's going to be interesting because imagine someone who doesn't care about the impression we've already got off Eve versus someone like Janine. That's going to be interesting with Stacey in the back like some little yapping chihuahua. That's going to be interesting. This week I think was all about sort of setting up a lot of new stuff and kind of moving a lot of pieces around into really interesting positions. And I really liked the potential that someone like Eve brings. She wasn't boring, was she? You're looking at Eve like a character who kind of do anything. She's clearly volatile. She's clearly someone who is, like you say, does not care about what people think about her, and they are the most interesting sort of characters to watch. So, I mean, Jean instantly was kind of like, no, this cannot happen. She needs to leave immediately. No, the angry volatile lesbian needs to be out on the street by tomorrow morning, Stacey. I'm serious now. So what do you think is going to happen to said angry volatile lesbian? And did you appreciate being reminded that she was an angry volatile lesbian on the frequency that we got for? I mean, yeah, they did go on and on and on Friday's episode. I think if you had one of those kind of graph things where you see the most used words on your Twitter account, if they used it on the script for Friday's episode, lesbian would have been trending there in the centre in giant letters. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope that Jean kind of pulls back a little bit and lets Eve and Stacey have their time, because I just, like I say, I think that it's somewhere down the line Stacey's going to need Eve's help, and you're going to see what exactly Eve will do for Stacey and what the repercussions of that would then be. Would like Phil and Jack, would Stacey then owe Eve a favour, and shenanigans might take place? Because would Eve, want to cause crime again? Is it we're going to go down that route where
shenanigans.
She can't live on the outside world without being, a villain, being a criminal of some sort? Not sure. So although I agree with Jean's kind of reservations and looking after her daughter, and I think there's a little bit of jealousy on Jean's behalf as well, that she thought when Stacey was coming out, she could have Stacey to herself, and now it seems as though she's not. I think that I would like Jean to kind of just step back a little bit and just see where Eve and Stacey develop and what happens between them two. I like it. I do. I like it. It's daft. It's stupid. It's ridiculous, but I like it. but hey, yeah.
We've accepted worse, let's be honest.
One last story then. One last thing we're going to talk about is the baby on the doorstep. It wasn't Hayley this time either. God bless her soul. It was a kind of completely anonymous person who's left a baby on the doorstep outside Zack and Martin and Sharon's flat. And so we're all led to believe that this is because earlier in the week, a dad came along and basically had to go at Zack for kind of being a bit promiscuous and hurting his daughter. So, we were set up to know that Zack is a little bit of a player. He did try to get back together with Nancy this week, but to no avail. And then when they came home with their curry with extra mango chutney, there was a baby on the doorstep waiting for them. When they turned up, and Sharon straight away said, "You know what, Zack? This obviously has everything to do with you, and you need to sort it out right now." But has it got to do with Zack?
Has it indeed?
What do you think?
I mean, all evidence would point to it being Zack's child. Although I would argue that child was hardly like Moses in a basket, was it? It wasn't like a small child. That kid looked about one.
Proud.
Yeah, like in a proper So I'm not convinced because the kid, when they were saying, "Oh, it's a baby," and you kind of look at this kid. No, it's not. It's a kid. Like this kid looks at least one. You don't call 1-year-olds babies, really, do you? See, there's alternative scenarios to where this could be going, isn't there? If it's not Zack's, and if it's not being left at Zack's house, but is in fact being left at Sharon's house, where else could this baby have come from? And how would they have known that she moved house, incidentally, and is now living in that flat? That's the other kind of thing I would wonder, but
That's true, because a lot has happened to Sharon. She's moved twice. She moved to the Vic and then to that flat. Yeah.
Why wasn't it outside the Vic? Of all places. Anyway.
But then it could have been anyone's outside the Vic. It could have been anyone who patronises the Vic. That would have been a completely who's the daddy? That would have been a
who's the mother?
Story.
Who's the daddy? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. Isn't it? I mean, if it's not Zack's, then it can't be. It's not Martin's.
It can't
There's obviously
be.
it could be Martin's, but it can't be Martin's. Maybe this is just the continuation of the many, many stories that are coming down the road for the death of Denny. He was a father as well. Oh my goodness. It does feel a bit trashy. Well,
I don't like it.
Who knows? It feels a bit cheap. I don't know. It feels a bit... and also, poor Sharon. She's got a young child of her own. And
Nanny Sharon.
Well, if it's true, she's a nan and a mother.
Yeah. And she was already accused of being Zack's mother this week. So it's not been a great week for Sharon, really.
No. Another thing I was wondering, talking about Sharon's children, do you think that this could also lead further down the line that perhaps Albie is actually Phil's kid? Do you think this could be where we're heading down as well?
See, when that was all going on, I thought that's exactly where it was going, because the way that they got the DNA at the time seemed a little bit suspect. And it was kind of like, you could have got that from any... that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
They were a dodgy company as well.
Yeah, they were very dodgy.
They were sending emails to anyone who wanted him.
Exactly. If you could go on Google and find these people in a few clicks, that's not who you want to go to. And I don't know, but at the same time, it sort of feels a bit late now. I almost if Keanu isn't even around anymore, so I don't really care who Albie's father is in a lot of ways. It kind of feels more natural for... I mean, because the thing is, Phil's also got Raymond, so he's kind of got that story going on, you know? He's already got, like, a new young kid to be dealing with. I don't think he needs another one at the same time.
No.
But I don't know. I don't know. But if this kid does turn out to be Denny's, then it's gonna. I don't know. It just seems a bit. I don't know. 13 years old. I suppose it does happen. It does happen, I suppose. And if any kid was going to do it, I suppose I can imagine. Because Denny wasn't exactly the brightest of children, was he? So I don't know. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, I suppose.
But it does feel like. It does feel like a bit of a rewrite for Denny, because I don't think he was ever shown, like, did he ever show kind of any interest toward, I don't think, no, and he didn't really show any interest in girls. All he cared about was kind of like bullying, or being bullied, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of come out of the blue a little bit, that if this should be Denny's kid, what, how and why did this happen? I mean, it might get explained perfectly to us, if this is the story, of course. We shouldn't...
No, we could be talking complete rubbish, and this could genuinely be Zack's.
Exactly.
I hope it's not Zack's, though.
Yeah. Yeah, so, very interesting. We'll see. So, that was EastEnders in a nutshell. Like we said at the top of the show, it's a huge shame that they didn't basically do anything Halloween-y. Huge shame. But we do have to give out some congratulations, and we're going to do that right now on the final part of the show, which is I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
This week on I Ain't Want to Gossip, we just want to extend our congratulations to Jazz Doll, who on Friday night found out that he had won Best TV Character at the Asian Media Awards. Now, this is a big deal, actually, because like there was a lot of people in the category from Coronation Street, from other soaps, and from all kinds of the TV spectrum, and Jazz Doll had won it. You know, I don't hide the fact. I love Kheerat and I love Jazz Doll, and I would have voted him a million times over. And so I'm very pleased that he had won it this week. I
probably did.
At the awards. And yeah, lots of different email accounts that I have. I mean, I am really pleased for him, and I think it's well deserved. And I think it just goes to show that perhaps they need to do more with the Panesars on the show, because they seem to be woefully lacking at the moment, even with the whole Suki story with Honey. I just want more of the family unit rather than just individual members here and there.
Yes.
How do you feel? Do you well deserved? Do you think?
Absolutely well deserved. No, he's a great actor. He's a fantastic actor, and Kheerat's a great character who's really slotted in well to EastEnders. And it's a fully deserved award, and it is a big deal because that's a really sort of sought after award, and good for him, I say. I agree with you about the Panesars. There feels like there is so much kind of waiting for us to find out. You know, we've got the whole thing with like the dad that's in prison and some house fire that went on that we were teased about weeks and months ago. We've got the whole thing with Peter and Suki that's never been mentioned since. You know, there's so much with the Panesars that we're kind of waiting to hear more about, and it's just being denied us. And I hope that 2022 is kind of the year of the Panesars, and that by the time we get to Christmas 2022, we're kind of like, oh, enough of the Panesars. God, do you remember when we were talking about like, you know,
God.
Oh God, more Panesar stuff. You know, because they're such a great family and they're such a great unit, and there's so many interesting little threads there that they can pull. I want more. But yes, no, a huge congratulations to Jazz. I assume that and I'm sure you can thank Alex for the millions of votes that he sent your way. No, it was a very well deserved win. Very well deserved win, Jazz. Congratulations from both of us, from all of us at Walford Weekly, and from our viewers and listeners as well, who, by the way, Alex, can get in touch with us, and we will read your comments out next week. We've overrun slightly this week, but we will read your comments and emails out. If you care to, contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly, and you can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos, and you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or at alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We will be back same time next week in slightly more normal outfits, but until then, it is a spooky goodbye from me.
And it's a frightening goodbye from me.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Bye.
Happy Halloween. Bye.